Something's calling us. So when we wake up in the morning, what's calling us out of bed? What's that thing that is pulling us to get up? We could just sort of go back to bed, unless you have to screaming baby, then maybe not. So often what we think is pulling us out of our bed are our tasks for the day. We have responsibilities, we have a job to get to, or people that we need to take care of. And that's the first thing that often can come into our mind, are our responsibilities. Last week, in the topic of know thyself, I was asking people to explore some of your habit patterns, that ultimately who we are habit patterns. That we've had these habit patterns through our whole life, and that's what solidifies us into a human being. So I invited you to explore some habit patterns that you feel serve you, that you've had since childhood, habit patterns that you feel like may not serve you, may limit you, and maybe habit patterns that you've changed. I'm not going to ask for details. I'm just asking, did anyone actually explore your habit patterns since childhood? Oh, good. A lot more this time. All right, y'all get gold stars. Does anyone just want to say in just a few words, not a paragraph, but just a few words, a habit pattern you discovered that you have had since you were a child? Does anyone want to share? Okay, well, you'll feel braver by the end. So an example I gave last week was my mother was always busy. So and you can look at what I was hoping as you explore these habit patterns, I said ones that you feel serve you and ones that don't serve you. But ultimately, you'll find that every habit pattern has a strength and a weakness. So I said my mother, her whole life since she was a kid, her teachers told her she was too busy. She's 82 and she's still too busy. It's sort of this habit pattern that she can't stop. So it can be on the one hand considered a limitation that she's always so busy, but on the other hand, it's a positive because she's always so fully engaged in life, that she is a vital, active, joy-filled person who loves life and wants to participate, not just a little bit, but with all out. And that makes her a joy to be around. So if you start looking, I was looking to see that as you started exploring your habit patterns, you could see strengths and weaknesses of these habit patterns that you've carried your whole life. Now we want to go a little bit deeper. So we have, and I say that because, that's a little bit deeper than saying I'm just getting out of bed for my tasks in the moment. So let's say my mom's always busy. Ultimately, those habit patterns are really what's pulling her out. It doesn't matter. She'll find a new way to be busy, but that busyness, that participation is what's really pulling her out of. She couldn't not participate if she wanted to. And that's what happens with these habit patterns. We can't help it. It's just who we are. We do it over and over and over and over and over. So we're so identified with it because that's what we do. That's who we are. And that's often what's get us out of the bed. Now to go a little bit deeper, underneath those habit patterns are qualities of God. I was just noticing, like Beth in our prayer was naming all these qualities of God. Jack began in the song naming qualities of God, that we list all these qualities of God, and they're actually very important. I was reflecting on this, and I haven't read this anywhere, so I can't say this is true. It makes sense to me, though. Is that I see qualities of God kind of like colors. So there's three primary colors, there's red, blue, and yellow are the three primary colors. I see there's three primary God qualities: love, joy, and peace. And I see the Western religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, as really cultivate the quality of love. And they all have all. I mean, obviously, God's one, so all of these qualities, but there tends to be a focus. In Buddhism, in Hinduism, it's bliss. We might say joy, they would say bliss. And if you notice, Ananda is a lot of spiritual teachers' name because that means bliss. So that's a quality that is highly cultivated and sought after in the Hindu religion. And in Buddhism, I would say peace. And it's the peace that passes human understanding. It has to be. So Taoism would be peace. It has to hold paradox, because there's no way we're going to be at peace without paradox. Did he wake up? Oh, he's listening. Okay. It's so hard to concentrate when there's a baby in the front row. Let's just be with the baby. Yeah, you could tell us. Channel. So we have love, joy, and peace. And again, all of them have everything. But what I have noticed just in practicing the different teachings and practices, they tend to highlight these different qualities. So it's just interesting to note in yourself, do you resonate with all of them? And is there one that you tend to be drawn to a little bit more than the others? Ultimately, we want all of them. But is there one that tends to pull us more? So for me, I would say that would be love. Like I love bliss, I love peace. But love is something that really activates and gets me excited. And then I think we all have a secondary quality, like secondary colors, that really is, so we have our main color, our main quality, and then a way we express that quality. To give what got me on this whole track was years ago, I've always loved dance. I don't know why. It's we watch So You Think You Can Dance. I force them. No, I'm kidding. Every week, and I always get choked up, and I can't tell you why. It's completely irrational. Yvonne probably gets it. I don't know why. I love dance, and it just moves me. And at the same time, for a long time, I really disliked ballet. I'm sorry. She was a professional ballet dancer. So I didn't. And the reason why was because I saw ballet as the most restrictive. It was so controlled, and you just couldn't let your body go. You just let it go and express, but everything was so rigid. And even when it was expressing in such control, and it just drove me crazy. And I would watch, and I haven't seen Baryshnikov in person, but everyone said how great he was, so I tried to watch, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get my heart invested in ballet. And then in 2000, I went to go see a movie. It was to me, high school type movie, teen type movie called Center Stage, about people wanting to get into a professional ballet company. And it's like a fame for ballet people. And, I came away, the movie was okay. But I was listening to classical music on the radio, when I could get classical music on the radio. And I noticed in my head, what brings music, I'm not auditory, so what brings music alive to me is the physicality of it. I just started seeing the people I had just watched dance, listen as the music was playing, and suddenly the music was becoming more rich to me. And I thought, man, you know what? There were some really good dancers in that movie. So I looked them up, and one was Ethan Stiefel and one was Julie Kent. And they turned out to be principal dancers of American Ballet Theater, which is one of the premier ballet companies in the world. And they were in a ballet, it's the core, and then there's the solos, and the principals are like the stars. And they were two principal dancers in this great ballet company. And I thought, they were really good. So I went back, and I was just, seeing it on the big screen. I was just suddenly, for the first time ever, I got ballet. And I was so moved, and I had to go back and see it again. And it was just, it filled my heart. And then I had a dream about Ethan Stiefel that was so interesting. In the dream, he was on the stage, and the curtains came up, and as he started dancing, this awareness, how you get this voice that's telling you stuff, and it's saying, his purpose is beauty. And that's all the dream was. But I just thought about that. That's his purpose in life, is to create beauty. And for him, that's through the vehicle of dance. But it was the quality, beauty. Beauty is why he was here. And I thought that we all have this quality we're here to express. I looked him up recently to find out that was a long time ago, and he's now an artistic director, so he's continuing to create beauty through being an artistic director. And he was, in the article, he was talking about all the back surgeries he's had, the legs, when a dancer, it's just physically so demanding, but he was willing to give his entire being to express beauty. He didn't just give it a little bit. Everything that he is was to create beauty in the world, and I caught that. I went in negative, not being able to see, and then having the darkness lifted because he was so committed to creating beauty. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is to find what that quality is. We're already doing it. I'll get to that in a minute. So just to give another example, to me, Gandhi, his quality was truth. He was always committed. If you read his autobiography, in fact, is called My Experiments with Truth. And it's very long. It's over 500 pages. And he goes into quite a lot of detail in every area of his life. What does truth look like? What is truth? What is truth about, bless you, the food that I eat? What is the truth about my relationships, how I relate with my wife, and what is the truth about what is our culture and the caste system, and how does that relate to, he was in an arranged marriage, how do I treat my wife, how do I treat my jobs within the home and the community? Is that learned or is that truth? And then he applied it to systems and to government and to social justice. His job, what he went to England for prior to the whole social justice, was to become a lawyer, which is another way of looking for truth, that his whole being was committed to the quality of truth. And, love, peace, and joy are always there. But the secondary quality is sort of our unique expression. I would say Martin Luther King, it was justice. That, of course, he talked about the big three, but there was his motivation, his longing was to see justice for all life across the board for all beings. That's what got him up in the morning. That's what got him up in the day. And so one of the things we want to explore, what I'm inviting you to explore, is what is that quality that you have to get up in the day for. Like, you cannot not do it. I know for me and my family, most of you know I have 3 older brothers, 2 strong parents. I was the crier in the family, I was the emotional one. So I always saw myself as the feeling one. And so I was so surprised when my brother George said to me once, this was years ago, he said, "Oh, Harriet, you have to think about everything." And it was such a shock. I'm like, I don't think I feel. Don't hurt my feelings. But he said, you notice that anytime something comes up, you just have to spend so much time thinking about it. And I thought about it. And I'm like, you know what? I do that a lot. And I never noticed it about myself. And so this is what's interesting. We don't see often our own quality because it's just who we are. Unless he pointed that out to me, I didn't notice it. It was just something I did. I did it my whole life. That's how I couldn't imagine being any other way. And then years later, I've shared before the mystical experience of that my path to God was being reflective. It was both who I am and my path. And this is the key. I couldn't be reflective all that if it weren't for love. It would have no meaning if it was outside of love. My hunger is for love. But the way it expresses, the way it feels fulfilled for me is through contemplating and reflection. When I was down in Los Angeles, I was going to Agape. Agape means unconditional love. So we know what quality that community is committed to. Love. And it was fantastic. And that's why I was there. And there was always feeling like something that was missing. I always had to think more than other people. I wanted to understand things. And there was always, for me, a pace that I was longing for. And it was interesting. The name Harriet is, in the English definition, is very dull. It's a combination of Harry and Henry, and it's like lead armies marching, ruler of the home. It doesn't do much for me. But I was in a Mormon bookstore, those wise Mormons, in the LA, and they have, sometimes they have all these names with whatever, and they actually had Harriet, and it was a plaque with what the name Harriet meant, and it meant wisdom. And I'm like, that makes sense to me. So to me, that was a combination of reflection and love, wisdom. That there's that I can't help but be that way. And so I looked at my habit patterns and thought, I could look at it, there was a habit pattern that I could look at as negative. I didn't jump into things when I was a kid. I didn't always want to participate. I wanted to reflect on it. So I could put it prior to that in a negative sense. I didn't participate. I didn't jump in with enthusiasm. So I could do a negative twist, or I could turn around and say, but that was also an expression of my reflective quality. I couldn't do anything without reflecting about it for a long time, and I can't help it. So I'm saying that, I'm giving myself an example for you. Your qualities, that's why I started last week with habit patterns, because you can't help it. Your habit patterns you can't help, and underneath those habit patterns is your quality, and your quality is your purpose for living here. That quality is why you are here. So beauty, for example, Ethan Stiefel's purpose in this dream was that it was beauty, but for him that was dancing. But if he hadn't found dancing, he would have found another way to express beauty. The vehicle, the most important thing was not the vehicle. When we think about purposes, I think we get too caught up in the external vehicle. I'm supposed to be a writer, I'm supposed to be a dancer, I'm supposed to be a teacher, whatever that is, but that's all the vehicle of your purpose. Your purpose has been with you since the day you were born. The purpose is why you were born here. So I have another friend, and she absolutely is passionate about beauty, but for her, it's all in aesthetics, creating aesthetics, having her own body be beauty and dressing herself in beauty and creating beauty wherever she was. She said that's what makes life worth living for her. But it's in a totally different way expressing beauty than Ethan Stiefel's way of beauty. But that quality is what is driving us. That's what's waking us up in the morning. That's what's calling to us. Ramana Maharshi said, people spend so much time trying to figure out what their purpose is, and they're going to live it whether they like it or not. And that, for a long time, didn't make sense to me. If we look at purpose out there, I'm going to get the right job. No, because it's who you already are. You have never not been your purpose. And the way you find it is your habit patterns. Habit patterns are the things you've been doing your whole life. You're a giver. You might be a person. Think of Beth. You just give. You can't help it. I bet you don't even think about it. If something needs to be done, you just do it. I bet you've been that way your whole life. That's just a beautiful way you express. And it's underneath that. What's the quality underneath that's driving us? So when we get up in the morning, that's what's getting us out of bed. That's the thing that's calling us. I don't know why it gets me, but it's because it's so beautiful. Every morning, we're being called to express this quality in a way we've never expressed it before. So I'm inviting you all to really explore, to discover what that quality, maybe you want all three, you are resonating with all three and you don't want to pick one in terms of the primary colors, or maybe you do. And then underneath that secondary quality, freedom, clarity, harmony, abundance, power, there's just so many. What is that quality that you have been expressing your whole life and you couldn't help it? It's not like you tried. Freedom. That's right. Ever since you were a kid, that's been a quality that gets you out of bed in the day, and your habit patterns have been playing with that. Yeah. Well, that's true. It's one, but it's also what we've been expressing. Like, that quality is something you've been expressing and you don't even know it. And we're growing in that quality. We'll always be growing. I'll always be wanting to grow in love. I'll always want to grow in wisdom and understanding things. I just can't help it. You'll want to, it's not just that when I say you've been doing it your whole life, you're done. It's you want to keep growing and deepening in it. And when you do that, you recognize that's what's calling you out of your bed every morning. That's how God is calling you. And every morning you get to then get out of bed and be grateful to God that you have one more day to express the beautiful uniqueness of your life, of your quality in this world. One more day to be you.